Hello and welcome to what is now episode 2 here on ChrisBits. Today I'd like to cover some IBM XTs, PCs, some clones that you saw in the last video. I'd like to go through them, look at some of the somewhat interesting hardware that's in a few of them, as well as getting them on the bench, making sure they work, and if they don't, repairing them. From there, we'll move on to restoring the cases a little bit. Not a ton. I'm not going to worry about painting them like I have in the past. These will still have some cosmetic issues, but I won't be keeping all of these machines. Most of them will be sold and passed on to other hobbyists to help fund this channel, to help fund future projects, and to recoup some of the money that I spent on this large lot of equipment. But yes, we'll be putting them up here on the bench. We'll be taking a look at them, repairing anything that's potentially wrong with them, going through them, playing some games on them even, just to make sure that they're completely working, restoring them cosmetically to a certain extent, and then passing them on to other hobbyists who can get more use out of them than I can 10 PCs and XTs. These will all be 8088 machines. They're fairly simple, fairly straightforward. A lot of first-time hobbyists getting into this. This would be a great machine for them to try out. IBM PC compatible with a ton of different things, tons of games, tons of peripherals, tons of monitors, whatever. These are great machines for the entry-level hobbyist, and you might even have the chance to pick one up out of this video if you'd like. You may see sitting here behind me are these two boxes sitting on the hood of my truck, and to the left of that, just out of frame, are 5 more. Within these boxes, waiting to be taped up and shipped out, are 7 of the Deckmate 3s of the 9 that I showed you in the last video. They've since been sold at a very reasonable price to a bunch of other hobbyists here on Facebook and YouTube, so that I can get them in the hands of people that will use them and not sit alone in my garage. Like I said though, I sold 7 of the 9, so I'll be keeping 2 of them for myself here on this channel. I guess for now, let me take you over to the bench and I'll show you what we're working on today. Over here on the bench, you can see I have 5 PCs and XTs. These 2 are original IBM PC 5150s. This one is an original 5160, and these 2, top and bottom, are both XT clones. Mainly, the differentiating factor between these, as you may know, is an IBM PC. It does not have a hard drive and always came with a full-height floppy, while the XT came with a hard drive and often a half-height floppy. We're going to take a look at all 5 of these machines, see what's working and what's not. I can tell you already that this one is labeled defective motherboard, good memory chips. So we'll check that out. That is actually the original 5160, the IBM model. Coincidentally though, I do have a 5160 motherboard that I repaired in the past, tested and working, sitting in a box just underneath this bench. So if it comes to it and we cannot repair the motherboard that's in this computer, we're going to go ahead and swap it out for the new motherboard. I think I'd like to go ahead and start by taking a look at this one, because this one is an original IBM PC. Not only that, but this one only has 1 floppy drive, so I like to think that this one's the simplest, least amount of parts overall between all these. It may have the best chance of working right off the bat, and if it doesn't, we'll take a deeper look into it. Well, now, as you can see, I've brought you down to a top-down view. And as you can see in here, we have an AMD processor. We do have all 5 ROMs in here. I may, in a box somewhere, left over from a previous project, have some 5150, 5160 diagnostic ROMs. So we could pop these out, potentially, and pop those diagnostic ROMs in and check it out. I'm not 100% certain if I have those. I may be promising you something that I can't provide. But I'll do some digging and see if I can find them, if I do have them. Obviously, we're missing all of our expansion cards. It looks like at one point that there was 4 installed. And I must also say, I'm going to have to come back to this project because I do not have a TTL monitor here. It is in storage. I have to go get that TTL monitor for that CGA or the MDA so that we can actually produce an image from these computers. So I may have to come back another day, but for you, it's going to only be a few seconds. I come back to you now, having just left work in the factory. Nice and dirty and grungy and unkept. Hope you're okay with that. All right, what's going on? Welcome back. When I left you just a moment ago, I was working on this machine. I had just set it up here on the bench, and I realized that I didn't have a TTL monitor. So I went and I retrieved my TTL monitor from storage. Turns out it doesn't work anymore. I don't know. There's no high voltage. I guess we'll have to diagnose that another time because I'm not messing with it right now. In the meantime, I spotted an 8-bit VGA card in one of those machines. I'm going to pull that out and we're going to try and, well, we're going to see and hope that works. If it does, we're going to continue on with our testing and we're going to use this modern flat screen behind me. We'll go from there. All right, welcome back. You're above me now. Before I go any deeper, I don't want to put any cards that I know are good in here until I know that this power supply is all right. And if I was really going deep into this, I would be intelligent and I would pull these plugs and I would check individual voltages. But it's not atypical. These supplies should always have overcurrent protection. I'm not that worried if I turn this on. The worst case thing that could happen is maybe a tantalum cap explodes. It's unlikely that anything else gets killed. So we're just going to go for it. Okay, well, interesting enough, the fan on the power supply spun for a moment. Clicks on. So that makes me think it's going into overcurrent protection, which makes me think, well, there's probably a shorted tantalum cap on this motherboard here. We are going to have to check it out. Until then, though, I will mark this one as needing electrical repair. We'll set it aside, and I'm going to get another one up here on the bench to just try and breeze through, see what works and what doesn't. Okay, I have this second machine. Let me move this out of the way. Got this second machine sitting up here on the bench. This is another 5150. I'm going to go ahead and get the cover off. I don't see any excessive damage. There's a little bit of water damage on the back, but it doesn't look like it got in at all. Take that back. This looks like a nearly identical system. The power supply is a bit corroded along the outside, fairly dusty on the inside, but that doesn't scare me. The motherboard looks to be in good shape. We have all the ROMs. Ready. Fire in the hole. Absolutely nothing. Okay. Well, we can work with that too. We'll shut this one off and we'll get it off the bench and we'll find another one. All right, here is the XT clone. One of them. All right, this machine's a lot more interesting, as you can see. We have an ST, I don't know, it doesn't say right on it like it typically would. ST hard drive. We have an MFM controller. We have an 8-bit VGA card, which is friggin' awesome. We're going to pop this out and hopefully test it, see if it works. Another machine that I know is working. A hard card and a modem. I know already that this machine actually trips my GFCI. It has a ground fault. It too needs a power supply. This one's got a pretty neat clone motherboard. It has a built-in floppy controller. It's hard to see from your perspective, I'm sure, but we'll get closer to it soon. We're going to pop this one off the bench again. We're going to move on to the 4th out of 5. We're going to see what's up with that one after I pop out this VGA card. I'd just like to go ahead and say, look at this gorgeous card. I just popped it out of here. It's a Western Digital card. It's labeled ZPVGA or Revision B. Man, it's awesome. We got 2 banks of RAM here, what I assume is the VGA chip, 2 EEPROMs, and 4 crystals here. It's actually a 16-bit card, though obviously it operates in 8-bit mode in this computer. Not all VGA cards, not all 16-bit ISA VGA cards are able to operate in 8-bit mode. This is the first one that I have, so this is extremely exciting. This is a great testing tool. It allows me to just plug in these 8-bit machines into modern monitors. So I will be hanging on to this no matter what. We're going to pop it in another machine and hope it works. I'll get a good power supply out here and we're going to test them all individually again. All right, so I just took the cover off this one. This is number 4 of 5. This is another XT clone. It has a ST, I'm going to assume that's a 225. It looks like, yep, 225, right down there. ST225, a 5 1/4. I think that this is a 1.2 megabyte drive. It's got this neat little floppy controller, obviously. Looks like a parallel port or serial port. This is actually the display card in here. There's a 6845 CRT controller on here. So I believe that would be a display and a game port. Or maybe another parallel. I don't even know. It doesn't matter. Let's test this one. Let's plug it in and see if it works. I'm not going to plug it into a display yet. We're just going to flip it on. Well, glad I got that one on camera. There's a tantalum cap going. Smells so good, like feet. Right down there next to the power connector. So obviously this board needs a recap. I don't intend on turning it back on again, maybe causing further damage. But, well, we know this board needs a recap. Sounds like perhaps this power supply is all right. It actually provided power. It only overcurrent protected once the cap exploded. So I'm going to pop this power supply out, measure the volt rails, and then we're going to hook it up to some other machines that seem to have dead power supplies and see if those work. While I'm doing this, let me talk to you really quick. Trying out these lapel mics. I'm not sure how much I like them. They're not very expensive, nor are they omnidirectional. They're directional all right. But you've probably seen it clipped to my shirt this video. I don't know how much I like the audio quality. It sounds a little muddy. I can't tell. But what's extremely apparent is just how much they pick up every little bump and jostle towards the microphone. So we'll definitely be changing that. You'll have to excuse the audio for this video. Also, if you'd like, leave me a camera recommendation too. If any of you people are knowledgeable in what I should buy on a not very large budget, mind you, drop me a good idea. Because one video in, I must say, thank you guys. 65 of you or so have already subscribed to this in just about a week. We're well over halfway to 1,000 views on the first video. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Aha! We got it. She fought tooth and nail. Right down to the last man. Now that we have successfully identified a fault on this one, being this tantalum capacitor right here, there's some burn marks around it. We're going to come back to that. We will come back and recap this board. I have to order some caps from DigiKey, but it looks like this board only has 5 of those yellow tantalums. We're not going to replace the blue tantalums. They all appear to be fine. I know appearance does not mean much, but it's always usually the yellow ones that go. So as you can see here, I wanted to go ahead and check this power supply here on the oscilloscope. That center line being 0 volts and it's 5 volts per division, we can see that the power good signal, well, you stay in, mind you. We can see that the power good signal reads 5 volts right there. Now we can check 12 volts. Well, there's 5 and there's 12. We're getting 5 and 12. It looks pretty rock steady. So we're going to go with that. I'm going to assume the negative rails are correct, and we're going to give this thing a test in the computer. So as you can see, I got the power supply that I just tested sitting up here. I got it plugged in to this XT clone. This is the one that had the hard card and the VGA card in it. I don't have any peripherals plugged in. I just want to test the board. I do have a keyboard plugged in, but still expect to hear a beep error because we're missing a video card. I just want to see if I get any post beeps. 3, 2, 1. So we got smoke coming from a tantalum cap. Oh, it looks great. I'm just going to let it go for a moment. Who doesn't love a good electrical fire? We're just getting great videos today. Ooh, nice purple smoke. That's good for your lungs. So we're going to recap this one as well, obviously. I got the motherboard out. This one was a much bigger pain in the rear. I had to cut the clips right. Jeez. I had to cut the clips right out. As you can see here, though, we got the MFM controller. We have some ports that run ribbon cables out to the back. This is a pretty integrated board. It's pretty cool. We got tons of RAM over here. We got a few more of these tantalum caps, but I think it's pretty obvious which one exploded. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to recap this board as well. You may not see it in this video. I'm going to go ahead and release this video as a part 1. And in the second video, I'll demonstrate how we recap all these and get them all tested and working. But as you can see, I've got this other 5150 back up on the bench here. This is one in which the power supply blipped on, and I believed it went into overcurrent protection. I don't believe that to be true. I would like to show you this oscilloscope. You will hear me flip it on. 1, 2, 3. You can see we're up to 5 volts, but the fan has shut off on the power supply. Shut the power supply back off. You can see we're still at 5 volts. I discharge it. See, that's just a capacitor. Let me turn it back on. So we're at 5 volts. The fan has stopped. Discharged. So this power supply is going into overcurrent protection internally. So we're going to pop it out, and we're going to pop in this known good power supply and see if this board comes to life. All right, so now I've got this power supply plugged in. This is the known working power supply that we've checked with the scope. I've got it plugged into this 5150. We're going to see what happens when I flip the switch. Well, it appears to be running. No beeps, which is not a good thing. Perhaps we throw a video card in it and see what it does. I've configured the board. I've configured the dip switch settings to accept a video card with a BIOS expansion. I've set it to not expect any floppy drives. I have enabled all 4 banks of RAM, but we should get a RAM error if that's bad, not just nothing. So let's try it out. My keyboard did flash. And power supply shuts off. Interesting. Well, that doesn't give me faith. All right, well, I popped out this hard drive. I popped out the power supply. I tried one more power supply. They both go into overcurrent protection after a few seconds now. So I'm going to say that we probably, once again, have failing capacitors, and this board will also be recapped. All right, we got the board out. Nothing visibly wrong with it. Don't feel any warm capacitors. Let's take a resistance measurement across some of the power rails just to see what it looks like. 520 ohms, 520 ohms, 54K, 0.2. Well, that is a ground, that's a ground, that's a ground, that's a ground. See what we get here. We get about 0.2 ohms. I think we have found our culprit. That would be 0.2 ohms. Yeah, I don't like that. So that's our 0.2 ohms across our 12 volt rail. That would be our tantalum caps. I am going to go ahead and put this board in the pile for recapping. I have the other PC back up on the bench here. This one also has power supply problems. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to pop this whole thing right out. I'm going to get that tested power supply in it, and we're going to see what it does. Let's see if she makes any sounds. Woo! Haha! There's another good one. All right. I think we are 4 for 4 with power issues here. Whew. Get all this stuff out of the air. I think if we've learned anything, considering we're 4 for 4 with these tantalum caps and dead power supplies, I'm going to go with that the conditions in which that these computers are stored has a huge deal on whether or not these tantalum caps remain good or are bad and will need to be replaced. These machines were stored outside, not outside, but in a not climate controlled warehouse. And I'm going to say that the wild temperature changes are what damage these caps and are what's causing them to explode and why we need to recap these. So this goes to show that it's extremely important that we store these machines in climate controlled environments. And if you have one, don't let it sit outside. Yours might just explode like you've seen 3 times now. I think I've shown you enough montages of me removing these boards. Oh, look at all that. I'm going to go ahead and get this one out and put it in the repair pile. You'll see it again next episode once I get these capacitors in. All right, well, that was fun. We did some good testing. We blew up some caps. We learned what was good and what was bad. I now have 5 IBM XT PC clones and original motherboards now to repair. 5 because I had 1 already in a box. So we'll see what we can do about those. We know that 4 of them need recapping. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to order all the capacitors that we need. So that way by next video, part 2 of this, I'll be able to recap them and we'll be able to see if they work. If they don't, we'll go further down the rabbit hole, see what else is wrong with them. We'll get that fixed as well. But right now, I'd like to move on. I'd like to test the hard drives, and I'd like to test that hard card, some hard drives, MFM drives. This VGA card I got here, maybe a couple more things. I'm also going to show you. But I'm going to do all that with my 8088 test machine sitting above me. I'm going to get that down and show you what I got here. This is an XT clone. This is my 8088 test rig. I haven't yet fully gotten software onto it, but we're going to work on that. Right now, though, I just want to see what we got, test a couple things. Let me show you what's cool about this. It does that. Well, need some hardware for the hinges, mind you. So we're just going to leave it off. Right here, I have an XT IDE. It's a XT IDE 4 from Glitchworks. I purchased this as a kit and I put it together. It's worked great since. I love it. Great little blue board. Looks cool, works good. Good tool to have on these. From Tech Select, we have a Resound 2 OPL3. Awesome sound card. Also from Tech Select here is a quad flop. This is a really cool card that they built. You can support up to 4 floppy drives. You can actually run an 8-inch floppy drive off of this with some finagling. It's pretty cool. We're going to stick it back in here. This is an interesting card I found on eBay and I picked up because it was not very expensive. This is a Heath 8-bit video card. You may notice it has TTL and VGA outputs. You can configure it to output to either or. I've had a time getting this thing to work. I've gotten it to display VGA at one point, and now it no longer does. I don't know if something's wrong with it or it's a configuration error. At some point, we'll figure out what's going on. But till then, it's a pretty neat card. And right here is a classic AST 6-pack. Got a real-time clock, printer port, RAM expander. I think that's a serial header. I don't know. Lots of things. As you can see, though, previous owner lifted some legs off of a RAM chip. So I'm not exactly sure what's the issue with it. I'm going to assume that there's a dead chip within that bank. Got to go through that as well. Stick in this Western Digital VGA card and verify its functionality. I've went ahead and unplugged the ST225 that was in here. It has the click of death. One day I'll show you a trick that often can bring these drives back to life. Everyone says that they are not so sturdy and that they like to die over time. I'm not entirely of that opinion. Yes, they're not entirely reliable. But I'll show you how a lot of the times you can bring these back from the dead. I'm going to freehand it for a minute here. Something interesting happened. Turns out my 8088 rig there is working a-okay. What's not a-okay is this monitor obviously doesn't support interlaced VGA, and it does not like to display either that or it's way over scanning. That hasn't been a problem in the past, but it is now. So I got out my 8514. That looks absolutely horrible here. It doesn't quite work right. We got a nice block on the screen. Colors aren't right. The flyback's arcing over. But hey, I get a picture. So I got out this 5160 board right here. I'm playing with it. It does work. I repaired this one in the past. But I wish I caught it on video. Ah, come on. That capacitor right there exploded on me. So we got a Hail Mary today of explosions. Let's test some cards, because it still works. Well, I would like to start with this beautiful Paradise VGA card. We're gonna slot it in here and plug her into the old grungy beast of a monitor. I'm gonna turn it on. Boop. All right. We got a little change of image. Ooh. Looks like we are out of sync here. Yes. All right. So I know you can't see because the camera does not like the CRT very much, but I've flipped the switch. I've changed it from interlaced mode to, I'm going to have to get my VGA terminology right. I promise I'll have that right in the next video. The VGA signals transmit electrically from this card to the monitor. There's some different standards. I swapped the dip switch from SVGA to an earlier standard, and now the monitor likes it a little better. I'm getting a display. So this card works. That's awesome. This is a rare, expensive, beautiful VGA card, and it works in 8-bit mode, which is awesome. Let's test my Heath VGA card too while we're at it behind me, but let's check out what we get on this monitor. Not that you can see so well. Well, we have a blank, we have a cursor. All right, so this card's working too. It's displaying, got a 301 error, and it's counting the RAM. I'll shut this off. I know my VGA card's working. Awesome. So that means we now have two 8-bit VGA cards to work with, which is awesome for the channel, awesome for testing. And with this, we will build the ultimate 8088 system out of the one that you saw previously. I got the Western Digital VGA card in it, and it's displaying well. The last thing that I want to test in this video is this hard card. Very unlikely. I'm not super confident that it'll work, but I still want to check. Still want to see what it sounds like. It's only fair, and I know you want to see what it sounds like too. All right, we got a hard card in here. I've unplugged any other hard drive. I've unplugged the ST225. We're going to see. We're going to go ahead and we're going to see what this hard card sounds like. Whole lot of nothing. Yep, so we're getting a whole lot of nothing out of that hard card. Maybe that drive's not getting power, maybe the motor's dead. I don't know, we'll see. That's another thing we're going to take a look at in the next video. With that being said, I think we're going to call this video. I'm going to get some parts on order so that we can continue into our repairs instead of just testing. We're going to go from there. Okay, well, we looked at some stuff, we tested some things, we blew some stuff up. It was fun. It was a little bit of an adventure for both of us. Well, I'm going to get some parts on order so that in part 2 of this video, this Repair-a-Thon, I'll go back and we'll check out all those motherboards, we'll check out the power supplies, and we will recap them. We'll see what works, what doesn't. Things still don't work. We're going to go ahead and delve deeper into them, see what we can find that's the issue. We looked at some really cool stuff. We saw some ISA VGA cards. I checked out a hard card that doesn't work at all, but we're going to look at that. Maybe not in the next video, but another time. I might do a whole segment on MFM or ESDI hard drives, RLL, whatever else. I think I might do a whole video simply on hard drives because old hard drives are awesome, and I love trying to resurrect them. But we saw some awesome stuff. Didn't get a lot of repairs done. Didn't get any repairs done really this video, but that's okay. Thank you for following along. If you watched this long, my God, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We looked at some cool stuff. We saw some really rare ISA VGA cards. We got a couple of those working. We saw my 8088 test rig. We had a lot of failures. That's okay, because next video we'll have some wins. Next video you'll get a lot of recapping, lots of stuff like that. We'll check out, see what still works, see what doesn't, and hopefully assemble some working machines and get them running. Thank you again for excusing my grunginess after work here. Also, again, this lapel mic, I don't know how much I like it. We might move on to something else. Still learning day by day. But thank you very much for watching. This has been ChrisBits episode 2, the 8088 Repair-a-Thon part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.